up. So I'm going to get started here. My name is Trent McGee, the Director of Student Life. Hopefully you all have seen some emails from me and contacting from our Student Life team, and we're really excited for you to engage in Sophomore Professional Week. You don't get to hear much from me. The only thing that I got to say is please engage tonight. Ask some questions. These representatives of companies are here to talk to you. They understand how important your sophomore year is. But Dan is actually going to be leading and moderating tonight, so you don't have to hear from me. But the Q&A feature at the bottom, you can submit questions at any time. He will work his way through some questions, but he will also answer some questions. If you have a particular question to a company on here, feel free to do that. They know they can type some responses and engage with you that way. So please, let's have some engagement. And we're excited to dive into this topic. Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Trent. And welcome, students. Thank you for being here today. We have an amazing list of panelists who are going to be here to work with you and talk and answer questions. And I think how it's going to work is I've got a few questions that I'm going to ask them panelists to engage in, and we'll go through that, and then you students will be able to ask questions, and we'll engage with the panelists as well. Now, I'm going to quickly introduce the panelists. And so we first have Adrienne Trottier she's a managing consultant with BKD. And we also have Mark Schaefer, and he is a partner in the audit division with KPMG. And we have Isabella Bierk, and she's the senior campus consultant for Plant Moran. And we also have Nicoya Parker, who is the diversity recruiter for Geico. So these are our wonderful panelists. Thank you all for being here this evening. And I'm just going to throw out one of the questions, and panelists, please unmute and start sharing from your perspective. And the first question that we have is, what resources should students be utilizing to find jobs?
So I can start. I would obviously say, the online job boards. I would say for college students, especially starting out, LinkedIn is a huge one. Not only to see jobs, but to start to connect with recruiters who are hiring. These job fairs and career fairs like these, when you have different companies coming together to share what they have to offer, those are great ones. And if you also have resources on campus, like career services on campus, make sure you utilize those as well, and that'll help you.
Awesome. Adrienne, Isabella, Mark, any?
Yeah, I think those are all great suggestions, using Handshake, the IU system. But first of all, you're doing the right thing by being here tonight. I think taking advantage of as many opportunities as you can to engage with companies, start to learn not only about what the company does, but what the people are like and what the culture is like, I think is important. And many times I think students don't really think about recruitment until a lot later in their college careers. And so you're getting a jump on things, and, commend you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mark. Isabella, Adrienne? Adrienne.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think one, major missed opportunity is taking advantage of those job fairs. I find, a lot of these great companies, they take their time to come meet you all, and don't ever underestimate, that personal connection that you have the opportunity to make at those events. So I would highly recommend, as soon as possible, just get those on your calendar, prioritize them, and, try to meet as many, firms and companies as you can.
Wonderful. Isabella?
I think the only thing I'll add, I think every single one of the panelists touched on it, is the people that you meet at these events are the people that are going to be giving you your future internship, your future job. Every single human being you meet is someone you should treat with respect, but also keep in mind and follow up with. The business world is small. It may not seem like it to you right now, but I promise you it is. I bet everyone else on this call could agree with that. So take advantage of it, and you go to one of the best business schools in the country. There is never going to be a time in your life post-graduation where you are having all these companies and employers that are coming to you and wanting to hire you. I promise you, it's not going to be as easy. So take advantage of every single resource that, that Kelly puts out, that all the job boards, Handshake, career fairs, like everyone else mentioned. I mean, this is your time to really do that homework so that when you do get an offer from a company, a firm, you are like, hey, I'm good to go. I'm ready with my decision. You shouldn't be starting to make that decision at that point.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question for the panelists are, what are some common mistakes people make during recruiting? Panelists? Mark.
Well, our IU recruiting lead encouraged me to say applying for positions that they're not eligible for. So if it's something that requires a CPA and you don't have 150 hours and you're not CPA eligible, you just need to be realistic about what you're applying for. And if you're not sure, reach out to the firms, reach out to the companies and their recruiters, and they'll help guide you to the position that you're best suited for. So I think that's one. And then the other one is what I alluded to earlier. And again, I'm talking to the wrong group of people because you are being proactive and you're on here as sophomores. But I think some people just think, oh, I'll worry about that when I become a senior. I'll start looking for a job. And that's not the way it works today. It's rare that you find the position you want waiting until that late in the game. You really need to start to engage early, look for internship opportunities, and really get to know the companies.
Thank you, Mark. Isabella.
Yeah, I think the one mistake I always like to point out when I can to a group of students is we see as recruiters what you apply to. So if you apply to every single position that a company has posted, the recruiter is going to go in and they're going to be like, what do they want to do? And unfortunately, because of the way the world works right now, we're not going to sit there and try to decipher kind of the thought process that went into hitting apply 25 different times. So when you are applying to a position, what Mark said, make sure you're qualified, but also make sure you're applying to maybe one or two that are relevant or correlated and you're obviously qualified for, but that you're interested in, because that is actually the number one mistake a lot of students make. They don't think that we see that, but we do. All applicant tracking systems show us that. It's all tied together on the back end. And you don't want to show yourself off as someone who doesn't know what they want to do, even though in your mind it may be like, I'm open to anything, I can do anything, but that's not necessarily how it reads. So don't apply to everything. Apply to one or two things, and you will, I promise you, it will go much further for you, even though those options are maybe a little bit more limited on paper.
Thank you. Other panelists, Adrienne?
Yeah, this kind of relates to what Isabella and Mark were referencing, but I was just going to advise to do your homework, as you prepare to attend these, corporate events or a job fair, do a little bit of research. You don't have to be an expert. No one expects you, to know everything about the company. But I see a common word vomit is, so tell me what your company does. And, well, that tells me, well, you didn't look into it and you may not be that interested if you don't know. So, know a few things about the company, share what interests you about the organization that you're talking to at, or whatever booth you're at. Again, don't have to be an expert, but I think it goes a long way when you show that, hey, I've looked into this and it interests me. And I want to show you what I find intriguing about your organization. And that helps you kind of forge that personal connection with whomever you're talking to at that point.
Awesome. Nicoya?
So one tip that I've noticed that may be helpful is a lot of people leave out a lot on their resume, unless it's like extremely specialized position that you're applying to. Definitely don't be afraid to put in like any work experience that you have, any internships, even volunteer positions, because sometimes we do probe a lot into gaps. I know as college students, you may not have a whole lot of work experience, but anything that you have may correlate to different positions within the company. So definitely put any strengths that you have on there.
Great. Thank you all. Panelists, I'd like to give you just a chance to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your company. So Nicoya, you were just last speaking. Can you start us off?
Yeah, so my name is Nicoya. Again, I'm the diversity recruiter here at Geico. One thing I can definitely say about our company that I've enjoyed, I've been there a little bit over 6 years, and I've started in our most entry-level position, and I've been able to been promoted about 5 times now to where I am right now within these 6 years. So that's something I love to speak to in regards to our company. I love the different initiatives that we have set. Again, with me being this type of recruiter, I've been able to work on different levels with different people, different schools and communities. So just having those opportunities and being promoted to grow constantly is something that I enjoy at my company.
Wonderful. Anything about Geico that you want to share with the students?
So as far as Geico in particular, we are currently, looking at people who, well, in the future, I know you guys are sophomores right now, but as far as our internship programs, these are things that we have created to help you guys continue to grow. A lot of our interns go into our leadership development roles, which sets them on a fast track into management and to continue to grow, whether you would like to be a manager or a type of position that I'm in, or you can go back and return the favor to college students who are in your seats right now. So those are some great things.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicoya. Isabella?
Yeah, awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabella Bierk. I'm a senior campus consultant here at Plant Moran. I've been with the firm for a little over a year, but I actually came from another firm. So I've been in public accounting recruiting specifically for the last 4 years. And prior to that, I've actually served as a career advisor at Loyola University in their business school, working with undergrad business students. So I have had pretty much all of these conversations throughout my career, being on the other end, being an advisor working with business school students, and then obviously working on the other end on the corporate side. If you're not familiar with Plant Moran and who we are, we're a professional services firm, which is just a big fancy word for, we do your public accounting, management consulting, and wealth management. We serve clients in all of those areas. We have offices primarily in Illinois, Colorado, Ohio, and Michigan. So if you are interested in any of those places. But yeah, we hire Kelly students across the board in all of our different practices. So in our traditional audit and tax practices, as well as all of our management consulting practices. I'm not going to sit here and name all of those out. We could be here till for the whole hour. And our wealth management financial advising practices. So if you are interested in studying accounting and finance, definitely check us out, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isabella. Adrian, how about you were talking about BKD?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian Trache. I'm a managing consultant with BKD in the Indianapolis office. I've been with the firm my entire career. So that's, I just celebrated my 8-year mark. And I entered BKD as a financial statement auditor and eventually made the transition into our IT risk services consulting division. So I've been with IT risk services for about 4 years now. BKD, it's a national CPA and advisory firm, similar to what Isabella was saying about Plant Moran. We have a variety of services just beyond that standard accounting, risk management, technology, wealth management, forensic and valuation services. Again, I could name it, go on and on and on, but that's it in a nutshell. We are a national firm. We have about 40 offices in 18 states. And yeah, that's about it.
Wonderful, Adrian. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Mark.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Schaefer. I'm an audit partner in the Indianapolis office of KPMG. I've got a few years on my colleagues here. So I've been with KPMG for 33 years. IU grad, went right into the audit practice. I was the managing partner in Indy for about 12 years, and now I run our audit business. I'm the partner in charge of our region, which is Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan. As the others mentioned, KPMG is a Big Four international firm, so we're in 146 countries. We've got 90 offices in the US. One thing that I think is nice is we've gone to an open enrollment process for interviewing for positions. So you'll be able to see positions that are open in any of our offices. So we used to use a referral process when we were on campus at IU. It was a little bit clunky and people didn't really always know where the opportunities are. Now you can see, which city and which practice you want to be in. As Isabel and Adrienne mentioned, we do a wide variety of things. Of course, audit, traditional tax, but also just a breadth of management consulting and risk consulting services, and hire all across Kelly. I think we've been one of the top hiring firms for many years. So certainly look us up and look at the opportunities that are out there.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to pivot back to asking some questions. And one of the questions that is asking of our panelists are, what questions or information should students ask the professionals or request from their company to get a better handle and understanding the company's culture so that they have a sense if they're going to fit? Take it away.
I can jump in on that one first.
Sure.
So, I think asking about the company's values and even researching it, as Adrienne said, it's always good to do your homework in advance. Every one of us has our values, somewhere on our website. So doing some homework there, I think, is important. To me, more than any questions you can ask, it's spending time with the people, and not just people like me, the partners that may be interviewing you or senior managers, but taking advantage when there are larger groups of people on campus or they're holding sessions, getting to know the people that are going to be your peers and that you're going to be working with every day is going to give you the best indication of what the culture is like compared to something that's published on the website, or even, a standard recruiting answer that you might get in an interview. I think it's really getting to know the people and what they're really about.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Nicole?
I agree. Yeah, I agree with Mark said as well. Ask them about what their programs and initiatives that they may have set in place, to ask for more information about those. If you are on an interview with someone, ask them kind of what their track was, like how did you start at Geico and where you are now, to see, if that growth is there and what their experience is like, or ask them what they've heard from different associates if you don't have that chance to meet with those associates in that way.
Wonderful.
Other thing I'll add is, as you are 1,000%. I mean, I could not agree. You can read as much as you want on any website, any of that, but the moment you start spending time with people in person, in real life, that's really when you'll start making those connections for yourself and start getting a better feel for each company's culture. The other thing I'll point out is you need to start thinking about the things that you value too, right? That you're looking for, because you can be soaking everything in like a sponge, but at the end of the day, what if it's not what you're looking for or it doesn't align? So make sure that you start thinking of, now's the time to start thinking about what are your non-negotiables, things that you really value, things that you care about, because then that's actually going to help ask you the right questions, as opposed to maybe just some generic ones that you're like, I don't know what to ask, I'll just ask this. So, definitely make sure to start doing some of that introspective work, if you want to call it that, to start thinking about how that's going to shape the rest of your career.
Awesome. Adrienne?
Yeah, nothing really to add to that. Everyone's spot on as far as, that information, the mission statement, the values, they're listed on websites. I think the only thing I could slightly add is, as you're trying to gauge what a company's culture is, take advantage of your interview and, ask, what do you like about your job? Ask your interviewer that. Have them explain to you what elements of their job they value or they find important, because that kind of teaches you a little bit about the kind of people that they, that work there. So just a question to ask along the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Our next question for our panelists are, what are some things that strong applicants do during the job search, during the recruiting, during the interview that make them stand out?
I would say a lot of times, if I'm reviewing a resume, if someone's objective is specific to the job that they're applying for, the position that they apply for, that stands out a lot to me. If people are utilizing LinkedIn or Handshake and you have connected with the recruiter, introducing yourself or what we call, an elevator pitch, whether that's online or in person, those are always helpful. So things like that, I think really stands out to me when I'm meeting someone.
Awesome, wonderful.
Follow-up. I think that's another big one. And I always hear this, like, I don't know what to say if I meet someone, even if it's for a quick second, but like I said earlier, I promise you this world is small. You may run into someone that you worked with somewhere else. And any follow-up that you can provide or can just make someone remember you will really go far for you. And it doesn't have to be a soliloquy, 4-paragraph, email about what you liked about the conversation and how it went and everything like that. You don't have time to write that. Most likely the people reading it don't want to read that either. So brevity is important there, but that follow-up goes a long way. If you meet someone at a fair, if they give you their contact information, if you interview with someone, follow up, all those things, all those touch points really make candidates stand out. And when, as I'm sure everyone on this call can attest to, when we are looking at thousands of candidates, those are the things that really do go a long way for you, and will make the recruiter, the hiring manager, that will make them remember you, and kind of, it's giving yourself an extra edge. So don't underestimate the power of a quick follow-up and keeping that touch point.
Wonderful, thanks.
For me, the individuals that stand out are those that are prepared. I think that's a major factor for me when I'm interviewing people. You're always going to be asked at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for me? Have some questions, be prepared. I know that's not always organic or easy for everybody, especially, interviewing can be awkward. So it's okay to have those questions kind of in the back of your mind, ready to go. Do the research on the company, understand as much as you can about the position you're applying for so that you can speak intelligently to it. So I would just say the biggest one for me is being prepared.
Wonderful. Mark?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that was said. Nicoya's point about other job experiences. Sometimes people will leave things off their resume because they don't think it's relevant. Maybe they're interviewing for an audit or an accounting position and they worked in a factory, or they had a summer job at a restaurant, but those things all demonstrate work ethic. There's something to be learned from every one of those opportunities. And so not only including those, but also being prepared to link any of your experiences to how they made you the person you are and how it links back to the job requirements and how you're going to contribute to KPMG or BKD or whoever you're talking to. Isabella hit on some of the things that I would call professionalism too. Just, it is a small world, and especially if you're going to a city like Indianapolis or, a smaller, still a big city, but it's a small network of professionals there. And when people, even if they don't choose KPMG, if they don't act professionally and they don't follow up and tell you who they decided to go with, or no show for events or no show for interviews, those things come back to haunt you later. So do the right thing and be professional and courteous of people's time, whether you end up going with them or not. I think those make you a better professional, and they'll build your network out for the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. I'd like to ask the panelists each to kind of respond about, what is your favorite part of your job? Or, what is the favorite perk of your company? If something like that to share with the students. Adrian.
I can kick us off. Yeah, I would say for me, the biggest factor is the people I work with and the clients I serve. It's kind of double, it's all about the people for me, but it's, it's a two-sided coin there. I really enjoy the individuals that I work with and that I report to. My supervisors, I feel like are invested in my career, are invested in my success, and that's important to me. So, I looked for that. I also, feel like I serve clients on a wide scale of size. So I have a lot of, SEC registrants, but I also help, some smaller organizations that actually need, I feel like I'm needed. I'm not the bad guy, So for me, it's all about the individuals that I get to interact with on a daily basis that makes, that makes what I do more satisfying.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. Nicoya.
I kind of spoke to this earlier, just, having the opportunities to grow here at Geico. It's really great when a company is able to take care of their customers, but to also be able to take care of their employees who are servicing their customers is a really huge thing. So being able to be recognized for those, and we do a lot of associate appreciations. We have different organizations. I kind of think of our company as like a kind of community college in a way, because it's kind of small. There's different organizations you can become involved in. So that's always fun to kind of take your mind off of work and get involved in different ways. So that's always fun.
Awesome. Isabella.
I'll go next. I love this question. I think everyone on this call does. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be in a panel, realistically speaking. But, I think my favorite part, Adrian, you kind of hit on it. It's the ability to work with managers that genuinely care about me and my growth. I have a lot of ambitions. I am very career driven, and my manager knows that. And she is really good at giving me those opportunities, putting me in situations that I've never been in before to learn and grow. And I see that with our people. And being a campus recruiter, my job is to talk to students, and it's my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. But I believe in the firm, and I believe in kind of what I see in the back end, the things that students don't get to see. And it's a lot of that, putting people first, giving them the right opportunities, keeping them in mind, and watching them grow. I think my favorite part is watching an intern get hired to full-time, then get promoted to senior and then manager. That to me is just the coolest thing. So, obviously that's one of many, but those two things are definitely the things I love talking about most.
Awesome. Mark?
Yeah, I would say many of those same things, just the breadth of opportunities that I've had, and the fact that after 33 years of doing kind of the same thing, I'm constantly challenged and I'm still learning new things all the time. And I guess to put a little bit different spin on what the others talked about, at this stage of my career, one of the things I really enjoy is developing new professionals and watching them grow in their careers, and being able to see some of the individuals that I recruited on campus make partner is, incredibly gratifying, and know that I had some impact on that. The other thing is really the ability to give back to the community, and the firm's commitment to the community, but also the doors that are opened up when you're a professional in any of these firms, working on not-for-profit boards and things like that. I've been on probably a half dozen, and I currently chair the theater in Indianapolis. That's an opportunity that I've really enjoyed, to have a change of pace outside of the professional world, but also to give back to the broader community. And as far as perks go, that was part of the question. We started doing a winter shutdown over the Christmas, New Year holiday. So the entire firm shuts down for about 10 days. And we're now doing it in the summer over the 4th of July week. We shut down for the whole week, and it's the greatest thing ever. No emails, no. It's great. We give a lot of PTO, but the email inbox is still filling up. And this is 2 times a year where everything just comes to a halt and you can really unplug and relax.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. It looks like we have a question from one of our students, and I'd like to go ahead and present that to the panel. And our student asked, how should you go about making the first contact point with a recruiter? And what is the best way to maintain a relationship with that recruiter, who's a busy professional?
Okay, I'll stab. And I have to commend the student that understands that recruiters are probably getting slammed with a lot of emails. So good job, Max, on that. I would say there's multiple different kind of entry points. I think we all talked about them, right? Career fairs, even if you are a sophomore, I know sometimes it's like, oh, I have plenty of time. go to career fairs, start networking. A lot of companies and firms have sophomore programs that you can attend. So hello, that's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of. LinkedIn, as Nicoya mentioned, is a great way to start networking with professionals. We are very active as recruiters on LinkedIn through email as well, but LinkedIn is kind of what we live day by day. So there's multiple connections. If you meet someone on campus through a tabling event, if you meet someone, just randomly who's on campus, there's so many different opportunities, different ways. But the main thing is try to at least try to find one of those ways. So it's not just submitting an application, hoping for the best and praying that someone will contact you, because that's just realistically not how the recruiting world works. So, and then staying in touch. I mean, you mentioned the busy professionals. It's okay to send a follow-up and just saying, hey, checking in, hope things are going well. My favorite students that I've worked with in my career have been the ones that honestly have sent kind of check-ins every quarter, or maybe twice a year, and just updated me on what they're doing. And if they're still interested, if they're still, applying, whatever it may be, there's lots of little touch points. I think, once again, going back to my initial point, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. If you walk away with anything from me today, it's that not everything has to be a grand gesture. Just those small touch points are really going to be lasting to any recruiter, hiring manager, anyone you talk to. That's what we'll remember. So, just get in front of us in any way you can, I guess, to answer that.
Very good. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think the recruiting professionals, as you're fortunate at a school like Indiana, because most of the companies and the firms have a point of contact. We have a campus development manager, Elizabeth Fisher, who spends time on campus. She has office hours. She does coffee chats. She brings professionals for coffee chats. So just take advantage of those. And as Isabella said, you don't have to go spend an hour. Come by for 5 minutes and say hello. And when there are events on campus, whether it's through some of the organizations or just firm organized events, attend those. And again, you don't have to invest hours of time, just make an appearance and talk and get to meet some people.
Awesome. Anyone else like to chime in on that? We do have another question from another student, and I'll share that with you. How does working in a corporate environment differ from working in a smaller company? And if you have experience with both, or possibly some pros and cons, I know the students would love to hear it.
Oh, Nicoya,
Go ahead. Nicoya.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would probably say from my experience, the main difference from like a smaller to a larger might be the opportunities for growth in different companies. I know a lot of people that I have spoken to or interviewed with, a lot of reason why they may be leaving their previous companies because they've kind of either hit the ceiling of where they are, or there's not a lot of places they can go within their company because it's so small. So I think that's the pros that a corporate office might have compared to a smaller office. However, with the smaller office, sometimes there is more close-knit connection. You have maybe more contact with the manager, supervisor, and things like that, where you're able to get your questions asked more efficiently, or where if you do grow, you have a better connection with those type of people, with the people that you work with. So I would probably say, in my experience, those kind of be the pros and cons.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Corey,
you kind of hit that. You hit the nail on the head. I graduated college and started as a HR tech consultant, working for a HR tech company. Not my background, but it was really great. I worked with a company of 30 people, smallest company I've ever worked for, but it was great for learning. I mean, I was straight out of college. I was still soaking everything in like a sponge. But to Nicoya's point, I kind of reached a point where I was like, okay, I think I've done what I needed to do here. For me, I think for some, it's really dependent on what you, going back to my values comment, really looking for what you value. So after that, I went to go work for one of the largest companies in the world called Bosch, complete 180. where I was open to every aspect of HR I could have ever imagined in the entire world. It's actually where I found my love and passion for early talent development. So I think there's opportunities to learn and grow in both. I think though, if you do work for a larger company, sometimes there's just more opportunities to expand into different areas that you might not even have been aware of, to explore and really kind of build your toolbox with. So I think those are just some of the things to also add. So Nicoya, you hit it.
Awesome.
One factor that's different too when we're talking about, and I wouldn't so much describe it as corporate versus non-corporate. My point was going to be towards like small firm versus big firm. The client base that they're serving could vary pretty dramatically. So I think, as you're learning about different firms, or if you're going in the private sector, just understanding what kind of clients you'd be serving, what kind of clients you would like to serve as you, move into your career, that can often be a big variety amongst the firms or organizations. And it's really not pro or con, it's just different. So you got to figure out, what you like and what's important to you, what kind of experience you'd like to achieve. So just, something, food for thought on considering the way in which that could be different.
Awesome. Mark?
Yeah, or even looking at corporate versus like a professional services firm. I think, not that going into a corporation, you're going to do the same thing all the time, but you're going to start in a certain role and you're going to work on a team. And going back to Isabella's comment about knowing what you value, really understanding which situation you're going to fit better in, at least to start your career. Whereas in a professional services firm, you're likely to be moving from client to client. Your team is going to change from client to client, and understanding which of those environments you think you would be attracted to is wonderful. The other thing is, where you start your career may not be where you finish your career. So don't over stress about, I've got to find the perfect opportunity. Just find the right opportunity for you to start. And then there are many different paths that you can take.
Awesome. Going back to some of the other earlier questions that we had, I'd like to ask the panel about thinking back in their college days, about what, if you think back over what you did during college, and what was it that you did that you feel really made a difference in terms of, shaping you or preparing you for your career and the longevity of a career? Anybody? Nicoya?
I think for me, we did have a career services on campus. So I would meet with her and we went over like a survey to kind of find what area that I really enjoyed. And that kind of helped me kind of I would say get into this role. Another thing is going to class and studying because my current position requires a bachelor's degree. So without it, I probably wouldn't be in this seat. So make sure you're studying and going to class so that you can get extra opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would agree with that. That part is and always will be important. That certainly is you don't have to have a 4.0, but we certainly look at how committed you were to your studies in as much about the type of person you are as an indicator of whether you learned the right things to start your career with KPMG. It's more telling about, how committed you were to what you were focused on. But I do think getting involved in other activities, and that can be anything you're passionate about. I was involved with the IU athletic department as a volunteer. I belonged to a fraternity. I was involved in some professional organizations. So really that relationship building and nurturing that side, not just the classroom skills, but being able to network and to build relationships is equally important. And, we want to see that you're involved beyond just what's going on in the classroom, that you're part of the campus community.
Yeah, yep, definitely spot on. First and foremost, grades are the priority. That is going to class and focusing on your grades. That should be the priority. And then after that, you know, building the resume, having talking points within that resume, you know, that shows that you're well-rounded, you have experience doing a variety of different things. Similar to Mark, I was in a sorority, I studied abroad. In the sorority though, I you know, maintained officer positions. So I showed leadership initiative, you know, just tried to show that I had the ability to focus and prioritize multiple things in my life. I think that was one thing I tried to focus on as I was building that resume. Okay, how do I make myself look like I can handle, you know, the corporate environment? Well, a sorority, I don't know, does that, I got nervous. I didn't know what message I was sending. And then I realized, well, if I put treasurer on there, if I put, you know, even if it's social chair, like at least, you know, I showed that I was an active participant in whatever organization, you know, I chose to participate in throughout college. So think about that, you know, as you join organizations, what are you giving back to that organization during college?
Excellent. Isabella?
And I have to say, I mean, I was recruitment chair for my sorority, and I still think that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had in my life, managing 120 women. But you know, the one thing I'll say, and everyone here touched on it, but I'll call it out: join organizations that may not be directly related to your major. Join things that you are interested in. Join things that maybe you are just exploring for the first time. Go outside of your comfort zone, your bubble. I'm a first-gen college student. My parents are both immigrants. They don't speak any English. Going to college was a very different experience for them. They had no idea how to help me. I pretty much put myself in every uncomfortable situation I could have imagined so that I can build those relationship skills, learn how to talk to people, meet new people. Everyone you meet does bring a different background. And I think there's something to learn from that. So put yourself in a position, maybe just take yourself a little bit out of that comfort zone. I do think it's good practice for adult life, if you will. So definitely explore those options. I mean, Indiana has so many awesome organizations. Get involved. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that, you know, is so directly tied to your major. Yes, do we want to see that? Yeah, I'm not going to say we don't, but you know, there's also other things that we want to see you're multifaceted. That's what it comes down to, that you can juggle multiple priorities, you know, all of those things that everyone touched on. It does shine through campus involvement for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Isabella. We've had another student submit a question, and I think the professionals probably can. Many of you touched a little bit on this, but I think this question maybe will help you pinpoint a little more. And the question is, what skills or experiences are the professional recruiters looking for in students, and are they prioritizing those activities or skill sets in any way?
I can speak. I'll get us started there. I think a big one for me is willingness to learn. So an interest, and you're invested in, you know, if it's an interview, you're interested in learning. That's a big factor, because that translates to once you're on the job, we're going to teach you everything you need to know. I remember my first day, I had a minor panic attack that I had no idea what I was doing, and realized very quickly they didn't expect me to know how to, you know, do certain, you know, overly technical things. Still, you know, my accounting degree got me in the door, and they taught me everything else after that. So, you know, first and foremost, willingness to learn. That's definitely a big one for me. So.
Awesome. Other skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the total package, you know, that we kind of alluded to. Grades are important, and what you've accomplished on the academic side, but also communication skills never go out of style. I mean, I think it's still critical, whether it's communicating with your team members, communicating with clients. I think those are important. And, you know, I agree with what Adrienne said too. And I would even add to that, like, continuous learning and just adaptability because the pace of change is not slowing down. So, and a big part of that is technology too. And I know Kelly has added so much in the way of technology, data and analytics options to the coursework. I think, you know, whatever your core major is, the more technology skills you can supplement that with, I think will serve you very well.
Great. Any other? Oh, Isabel.
I mean, I think we touched on it, but the other thing that we do look for, and correct me if I'm wrong, panelists, but just your ability to talk about failure and failing. The one thing, especially, you know, I'll defer back to public accounting, the field I'm in. I mean, you're going to fail a lot, and it's going to be really, really hard. And I think if you've grown up being an overachiever, that straight A, the person who has that 4.0, who's involved in absolutely everything, and then you do fail for the first time, I do think it's hard. I've seen it. So I think just being, you know, having that grit, being able to fail, but also being able to pick yourself up is really going to go far. We are going to try to test that in you during your interviews and when you are talking to professionals. You know, we are looking for that because it can go down, it can go south real quick if you just get into your own head and really start thinking like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I can't do this. So having that grit is really, really critical. So just, you know, own kind of that failure, own that there's always new things to learn and you're always going to grow. I mean, I don't know a single professional who I admire who hasn't failed at least once in their life. And I'm sure everyone else on the call can say the same.
Any other responses? I have another question because you've touched on it a little bit, but panelists, in your work, in your profession, how do you take your mind off your work, maybe de-stress, maybe talk a little bit about work-life balance?
So for me, for the most part, I try to keep work at work when I'm able to. I know a lot of stuff I'm doing right now is work from home right now. So that's a little bit different. But try to just keep the those things off to the side when I'm doing like hobbies. I recently started doing water aerobics, which is nice. So that's a big de-stressor for me, something different that I didn't think I was gonna like at first, but I love it. So just maybe finding a hobby that's aside from work to kind of take your mind off of things.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as is true for everyone, like Nicoya said, keeping work at work is really hard. You know, that's a really big challenge. And I am not very good at that. I'll openly admit that's a big challenge for me. One way I de-stress, first and foremost, get a dog, because that's the best way to de-stress after work. That's my big de-stressor, get a dog. But I also try and set like incentives for myself. So I'll plan a trip. And so I have a trip to look forward to, or, you know, I would like to, you know, celebrate the end of the week by going to a nice dinner. That's kind of how I motivate myself to get through the end of the week by having kind of like a little carrot at the end.
Mark?
Yeah, I think exercise is a big one for me. Lately, it's been my Peloton bike. So I bought that about 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. It's gotten very much of a workout during the pandemic. In fact, when we finish here, I'm going to go do a 30-minute ride. So I enjoy that. But I skipped the dog and went straight to a bunch of kids. So for many years, I coached youth sports. And that was a way to, and you really had to focus when you were there. And I was pretty passionate about it too. So I coached football and basketball. And so that was a great way to, one, force me to get up from the office and make it to practice. And when you're there, you're just totally, you know, engrossed in that. So that was a big release for me.
Awesome.
You know, for me, this is something that I will also openly admit I have struggled for a really long time. I hate to admit that. It's something I'm working on very actively because, to be honest, you can't be successful long-term by working all the time. You really can't. You know, I think the one thing I've learned is when you when you have people in your life that you value and that you love and you want to spend time with, and whatever that is, you dedicate yourself fully to whatever conversation, interaction, engagement you're having, so that your mind, you physically may be somewhere, but if your mind is elsewhere, that really doesn't give that work-life balance any justice. So really setting up boundaries has been very important for me. I did get a dog. I will say he's a great de-stressor. Typically but I do have a dog with a lot of anxiety. So I think I bit myself a little bit on that. And then working out, finding that hobby. I mean, that to me has been a godsend, especially during the pandemic. I think it has saved my sanity, as well as helped implement some of that work-life balance, since we are working from home. And it does mix in with our life as well. So yeah, find hobbies, make sure you're not just all about work. I promise you, no one truly successful is entirely about work.
Got it. Great. Thank you, guys. We have another student question that I'm going to ask, and I know that we're getting down to the end of our time, and I'm going to pose each of our panelists then kind of a last opportunity to talk. But our last question from one of our students is, what is the best piece of advice you have for students who are exploring what they want to do when they grow up, or what to do in their career? So if you have some advice for the students, sophomore year is one of those years where you start to ask those questions of, what am I going to be doing?
I think Mark kind of alluded to this earlier, but I'm still figuring out what I want to do. My career has changed a couple times now that I've been at the firm. So I guess my first advice would be, don't stress about that, because I think you will find that, the careers of the individuals you interact with are ever evolving. They're not stopping. They're not stagnant. So, I guess take a step back. Don't be too worried about figuring it out in the next 2 years. It's okay that it's going to change a little bit. Career aptitude tests. Everyone takes a couple, like those personality assessments, kind of figuring out what kind of organization fits your personality. Sometimes those are helpful. Sometimes those confuse you more. So, so just be open to, it's going to change, do your research. And I would just say, have conversations, just ask people what they like about their job, even if it's your parents. It doesn't have to be your interviewer. Talk to people about what they value in their job. Because you're a sophomore, everyone knows this is kind of your transition period. You're trying to figure it out. So have conversations outside of, just your interviewers or with recruiters. Figure out what people like about their job, so you can figure out what's going to be important to you.
Yeah, I think that's all great advice. I think the thing that I would add, in addition to attending as many of these things and listening to people and what they do, Kelly has a couple of great avenues. They have workshops. So you can, if you think you know what you want to do, you can apply for one of the workshops, and that gives you a pretty good experience of what at least the initial opportunities are in that field. And then internships, do an internship. And if it's not what you thought it was going to be, you still have time to change. May have a tough conversation with the parents, it may take a little longer to graduate, but you can pivot at that point. And then, as Adrian said, careers are not linear. If you're still unsure, try to pick an organization that has a lot of different avenues that you can go down, and just keep an open mind and make the best decision you can with the information that you have, and know that you can always adapt as you go along in your career.
Awesome.
I can go next.
Go ahead.
Thanks. The worst part about Zoom, right? I think everyone has been saying careers are not linear. Please don't stress yourself out. I hope you're walking away knowing that you're probably going to be confused and may change career paths. I mean, I didn't really figure out what I wanted to do. I'm sure my career path is going to evolve and change, just like everyone else's is. So don't put that much pressure on yourself. Like everyone said, talk talk to people, figure out what they like to do, get experiences, get opportunities, join organizations, volunteer, go with where you're kind of excited and passionate at. I think the worst thing you can do is do nothing. I think that's the only thing I'll say is the worst thing you can do is actually just be like, I'll figure this out senior year. Like I have time to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah, but you should kind of be doing stuff along the way too. So if you fall and fail and make mistakes, that's okay. They're all just learning opportunities. So make sure that you're constantly kind of putting yourself out there and trying to at least figure it out.
Awesome, thanks. Nicoya?
Yes, I agree with everything each one of them stated. At the end, if you do end up finding something that you enjoy, I would just start doing deeper research into whatever field that you found that you're interested in and make a plan on how you plan to get there. So what's required for it, where to find these certain positions, and just go from there.
Wonderful. So we are now in the last minutes of our time frame, and I wanted to give the panelists one more opportunity to kind of go around and if there's anything we haven't touched on that you feel is important for students to know, now's your moment, and we thank you for all the wise advice that you've been giving the students today. So if you have something that we haven't touched on and that you feel is important that you want to say now that we haven't asked about, please use this time. Mark?
Well, the one thing that occurred to me on the topic we were just talking about, and this comes from experience with one of my sons that went through Kelly, is sometimes I think students pick the major without knowing what opportunities that actually leads to. So before you pick the major, there's a lot of information available at Kelly, including through the Career Services Department, to say, okay, for the individuals who had that major, what kind of jobs, what kind of companies did they go to last year? What kind of doors does that open? To make sure that that attracts you before you pick a major that just sounds good. So kind of work backwards from here's what I think I want to do, what types of majors prepare me for that. But just more broadly, stay in touch when we're all on campus, come visit us, talk. And that's going to be your best source of information and really learning about not only what job opportunities are out there, but what people and what organizations you might want to start your career with.
Awesome. Anyone else?
For me, I would just say once you do land an interview, I know sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking to be in an interview, but definitely feel free to brag about yourself. I know some people are modest and really don't like to highlight certain things, but this is definitely your moment to shine. So when you are face-to-face or with someone, just brag about yourself. Say what's great about you, what makes you the best person. Also, I'll be on campus tomorrow for an open house. So if you want to see me, have any questions, come say hi.
Awesome. Thanks. Isabella, Adrian?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of really good things. I'll just reiterate, do your homework. And that goes to the extent, doing your homework externally, looking at companies, firms, that Google, aside from all the incredible resources Kelly offers, has a lot of things. Keep thinking about your values, what you truly want from your future career, what you do value. Start building really good habits. Don't think, oh, I'll figure out, in my case, what work-life balance means when, I get a job, or, I'll figure it out later. Start tackling some of those daunting topics right now, because this is really where this is that pivotal point in your college careers where you are starting to kind of shape who you are going to become. As cheesy as that sounds, it's true. So just the worst thing you can do is do nothing. I'll say it again. Get involved, do things, start kind of having those conversations with your executive board of directors, whoever that may be, parents, friends, neighbors, whoever it is. Start those conversations so that you're just evolving and growing. This is the time to start doing that.
Awesome. Adrian, we're going to end with you.
I'll go really fast. So first and foremost, be proud of yourself for showing up today. Continue to do things like this. That is huge. I know we've all been in your position before. maybe not Zoom call, that wasn't a thing, but, you know, but, you know, it's easy to talk yourself out of, you know, joining a webinar like this. So continue to prioritize it. You know, I'm proud of you all that you jumped on today. Last piece of advice, remember that your network is already growing. You're already meeting new people, whether it's with a recruiter or it may be a classmate that's going to work for you know, another firm that you're going to interact with later in life. Just remember how important those initial impressions are even now. You're already growing that network. It's going to keep getting bigger. And as everybody kept alluding to, the corporate world it gets small pretty quickly. So you'll meet familiar, or you'll come across those familiar faces later again in your career.
Awesome. Well, students, thank you so much for attending. Really, truly be proud of yourselves for attending. The career service at Kelly is there for you students, and we're, you know, happy to work with you at any time. You know, drop-ins are available 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Professional appointments are available for you. We're all there for your success. And I just join me in thanking our wonderful professionals today, Nicoya, Isabella, Mark, and Adrian. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's truly a great session today. So thank you very much. Bye.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks everybody for attending. Hopefully you come out to the open house tomorrow. We'll see you all later.
All right, thanks.